All right, everybody. Welcome back to the Coconut Tree Podcast. I'm your host, Tom, with my co-host, Anthony.
Hello.
He's here. Um, there's a couple of things that we are interested in talking about tonight. Of course, we have hot takes for the week. Apparently, I was chock full of them this week, but I'm only going to give you one. And we have a new segment of the show that we're going to introduce this week that you guys have not seen in our first episode. So we think it'll be a fun time. But we're going to start with housing today because this is a very hot button topic for many Americans right now. And I think that we can contribute a very unique perspective that is very counter to what most people are saying in mass media and on social media, and just kind of contrary to the belief zeitgeist surrounding us right now altogether.
Can I talk a little bit about my goals for this housing discussion, Tom?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so I just want to kind of like on a meta level. Um, Most people don't understand housing, and the way we have discourse about housing is fraught with all sorts of assumptions, with moralizing, with things that are not true that actually end up being sometimes counterintuitive, but also counterproductive towards any goal of improving housing in this country. I kind of want with this discussion to kind of bring a different kind of discourse to the housing topic, such that like we're actually focused on solving problems rather than moralizing or grandstanding or validating whatever weird quirks or opinions somebody might have about housing.
Yeah, don't worry. During my conversation about this, I will not once say that anybody deserves a house.
Thank you. And let's also
Not even
let's
one
all
time. You will not hear it come out of my peepers or
also
my pie hole.
rent control is bad, but we'll get into that.
Well, rent control is less what I'm talking about. So when I say housing, I'm talking about a single family detached home
Oh, that
is
is
what I
not what
think
I'll
of
be talking about.
when I say house, that's what I mean.
Sure, sure. But I do think, we need to look at the broader spectrum
Oh, I agree
of
with you. I
shelter.
just want to clarify for our audience that when I say house, I mean specifically a single family detached home.
Got it.
Not an apartment, not a condo, not a townhouse. When I say a house, I mean your traditional suburban 1950s car in the driveway, single family detached home.
Loud and clear, Major Tom.
Definitely loud. I know my mic is a little spicy, but it makes it easier to mix, I swear. Um, so I actually want to start with what I was preparing to be a hot take for this week, but I want to inject it immediately into this housing conversation. So when I'm saying this, I am talking about purchasing a house, as I've just defined a single family detached home. Houses right now are actually comparatively the same price as they have been for the past 40 years.
That's a
Per
cold
square
take.
foot, it's actually it's actually the same price. No, people really think that they are just ridiculously expensive comparatively. And here's the thing. So I actually went out of my way and did the calculations, and I'm sure that I went into this knowing that you would agree with me on this and that you would find it to be a cold take, but I think this is about to really piss some people off.
All right, let's go.
So I used 1980 as the litmus test here. The median sales price, not adjusted for inflation, was $64,600 at the time, and the average size of the home was 1,595 square feet. So $64,600, 1,595 square feet.
When we're talking about
I ran that.
averages, are we sorry, sorry to interrupt, but when we're talking about averages, are we saying mean or median?
So average, it's the mean for the square footage, but it's the median for the sale price.
Sure, sure. I'm not sure those are directly comparable, but let's go anyway.
Sure. And also, if you were curious, it was 0.47 per square foot
Okay.
for a single family detached house at the time. So 50 cents pretty much per square foot, not adjusted for inflation. So, and this is just for the sale price that I did these calculations. I adjusted by inflation. So
Oh
I
my
used the
God.
BLS
Oh, he did it.
inflation calculator. $64,600 adjusted for inflation in today money was $260,870.24 right now. That's comparatively how much it cost. So if you look at places like Los Angeles and New York, yeah, it is the case that they're like $500,000 right now in today money. But if you look in most places in the country, that's not the reality of the situation. Like for example, in Pennsylvania, it's 276,000, I think, was the last time that I looked for 2023. That was the median sale price. The thing here is that is slightly higher than what inflation says it should be. The hot take here that I'm going to go over is that most people, when they talk about this and they point out that housing prices, single family detached housing prices, are not as comparatively expensive as you might hear from the media. But what I typically hear people take the route after this is, oh, young people are just complaining too much. They're not working hard enough. They're not doing things the way that I did them in order to purchase my house from like the boomer types. But I want to really use this as an opportunity to highlight the fact that housing prices haven't gotten that ridiculously expensive. And honestly, if you look inflation wise, food really hasn't gotten that ridiculously expensive either if you look at it at a long enough period of time. Like if you look at food over a 40-year average, it actually was just so ridiculously under what the inflation rate should have been that the food that you're experiencing right now, the prices, because of the agriculture cuts that like the subsidy cuts that Trump did when he was president, you're just seeing that this is the price of what food should have been. Like the reason that it wasn't this high already is because it was being subsidized so heavily by your tax money. So now the difference is you just have to pay the taxes and you have to pay the food because the subsidies were cut, but the taxes weren't. But anyway, let me get back to my main point here. It's not the case that people aren't working as hard. It's the case that the wages haven't increased. Housing hasn't gotten ridiculously expensive. Wages have stopped growing over the past 40 years. Productivity has skyrocketed. Wages have not. They have mostly stagnated since like the 1980s. And I think that the problem here is that people are talking about housing. They're like, we want housing prices to go down. We want housing prices to go down. But what they really should be saying is, we want wages to go up. We want wages to go up. Because quite frankly, if wages have had followed the rate of inflation over the past 40 years, nobody would even think that houses were all that expensive because we'd all be making $250,000 a year.
Oh man, there's so much I want to say. Um, First, I guess I want to challenge you on the fact about wages. My understanding, and I don't have the hard figures in front of me, so if you have them, I would love to
Hee hee
hear them.
hee.
What is the evidence that wages haven't grown since the 1980s?
So, in order to do this, I don't have it right in front of me, but I did do this at one point very recently. I did, again, inflation calculations on. So, in 1980, I think I used 81 actually as the benchmark for this one because it was really difficult to find accurate, non-adjusted for inflation medians from the 1980s. I don't they It seems to me like they didn't start keeping good accurate information until like the 2000s. But at least that I can find easily. So I finally found something for 1981 that was non-inflation adjusted, and it said that people made somewhere in the realm of 36,000 dollars per year was the unadjusted median for earnings in the United States. So I plugged it into the calculation, the calculator at the time, and it was equivalent to something like $348,000 in today money.
That doesn't sound
So
right to
that's,
me. I feel
I
like there's
mean,
some
it's what the
math
calculator
happening.
did.
I think you might be starting from the wrong assumptions, but I'll tell you what. I don't since I don't have the figures in front of me. Even though this
Here, I'll
goes
just find it really quick while you
well,
entertain our audience.
well, my thing is that I feel like you need to be looking at median real wages over time, right? Because real wages are going to be
Yeah, I
already
used
adjusted.
gross. I didn't use net. So
Yeah, I mean, I think we do need. I think we need a more comprehensive analysis of this, and I think maybe that could be a good topic for next episode. But kind of back on housing really quick. Do you want to hear my take about why I think people think that housing has gotten so expensive?
because they don't know what the hell the market looked like 40 years ago and can't rationalize that in their heads.
I mean, that's part of it, but there's a
Okay,
different
so hold
reason.
on. I did the
Go ahead.
calculations again really quick. I actually found accurate information. Um, According to census.gov. So I was a little bit off here. It wasn't $300,000. Just to fact check myself really quick for our listeners, it was $84,883.79, and the average median back then was 31,020. So my median when I ran the calculations the first time was wrong. Just
That's
for reference,
that sounds more reasonable than what I thought, but still not
just
quite
for
what.
reference, the 36,000 was 145,000. So
Okay. Okay. Well, I still don't think that's quite what I've seen, but like I said, I maybe we can do a deeper dive into wages in the future. But uh, yeah, so I think, and you kind of alluded to it in your take, which is that at one point you said, yeah, if you're looking at New York and Los Angeles, you'll see that things have actually risen. I mean, I think that's the problem. I
the two
think,
most expensive places in the fucking world to live.
yeah, well, yeah, but also I think the people complaining online, the people we hear about, are disproportionately the like higher educated people who want to move to the big cities, right? And get jobs in the big cities. All of a
Yeah,
sudden they're filling out these urban environments and they're realizing that
I
wow,
see.
this place is actually in demand and pricing is prices are rising. Why can't I just buy a house, and
Yeah.
they
So
yeah.
you're saying that the problem is that people aren't satisfied enough with the apartments that are available. They want the single family home and it's causing a delusion.
Yes, and specifically they want the single family home or the very nice luxury apartment in the most in demand places in the country. And I got to be honest
Yeah,
with you,
100%.
you don't have a right. Like not everybody can fit in these places. Like I want to make as many fit as possible, but you don't have like an inherent God-given right to live in New York or LA, you know.
No, but I do think that, well, this is going to open a whole can of worms. So I'll just briefly go over this. We can talk about each issue as its own thing separately over time. But I really think that if you're going to take that approach, and I do agree with your approach, we also need to take the approach of building significantly better infrastructure setups where, for example, the person who can't afford to buy a house or luxury apartment in the city could still theoretically work in the city and live outside without needing to purchase a vehicle, like
Absolutely.
have train systems that actually work and bus systems that actually are comprehensive instead
You're
of just saying, fuck it.
you're preaching to the choir, Tommy Mommy. I mean,
Yeah,
this
I
is
figured you would agree with me.
yeah. I'm very passionate about public transportation. I do think we need to make public transportation
You just
safer. We
called
need
me
to police it
Tommy
more.
Mommy. Hold up.
Wait, you just got that, huh?
Yeah, well, it took me a sec. Nobody's ever called me that
Well,
before.
I did Major Tom earlier, so I thought I needed to switch it up a
Yeah, it's
little bit.
true.
But
True, true. All right, continue.
but yeah, yeah, I do think that there's a lot of people moving to big cities and they want to have the same comforts they had when they weren't living in high demand areas, And I think that's unrealistic and people need to adjust their expectations. Listen, I want to build a lot. And when I say housing here, I mean housing of all kinds, apartments, everything. I want to build more housing in all these cities. I want to make it cheaper. And we can talk about why, that's getting a lot of pushback. But I want as many people in these cities as possible. But the truth is, until we have that housing, it's going to be more expensive.
I'm not going to lie to you. I actually don't see a point in keeping people in the city. I find that so not imperative to what I'm doing. I mean, think about it like this. My opinion is essentially the reason that cities exist where they do right now is because back in the day, it was significantly easier to have people live like close to water, for example. But right now, there's absolutely no reason that we can't go further out. Like, take Philadelphia, for example. There is absolutely no reason that they cannot expand the city itself. There's no reason why they can't build up the surrounding metropolitan area. Also, another thing that I want to throw in here, we seriously need to start bulldozing the 100-year-old buildings that people are living on
Oh,
and saying
yes.
that this is the
Yes.
best thing. They have a right to have their 100-year-old house. Fuck you. You can't do
No.
anything about it. That's fucking stupid. Those buildings are so inefficient. And quite frankly, since it's mostly predominantly impoverished people who end up living in these 100-year-old buildings, their monthly costs go up because the buildings are less efficient. They can't keep in heat or cold air as well. So that it's making them even more poor. It's keeping them poor.
Yeah, and a lot of them had
Fuck off. You
issues
can't.
like,
I don't care if they want it or not.
yeah, no, oh my gosh, there's so many things I can talk about here. So I
I
lived in
know. I know.
California. I lived in California for a long time, right? And you'll know, look, if you're online on Twitter, on anywhere, you'll know that California has a big homeless crisis. And what people, especially on the right, will say about California is like, oh, it's super liberal. They don't enforce crimes there. That's why it's fucking chaotic in the fucking streets. There's camps everywhere, right? That's not strictly true. There's some element of that. But a big part of the homeless crisis in California is that housing got so expensive because California does not want to build housing. And what you said about historic buildings, that is one way that they try to prevent the building of new housing. They'll say a neighborhood is a historic district when
Oh
nothing
my
historic
god.
happened
Yeah.
there, nothing of significance at least. And then they'll prevent any new construction. A very rich community, a place called Woodside, California. This is in the San Francisco Bay Area. They tried to get their town designated as a habitat for mountain lions so that they don't have to
What?
build new housing. This is a place where there are
It's
fucking
so
mansions, Tom.
stupid.
Mansions in this town. This is like rich people saying, our neighborhood needs to stay.
Not in my backyard.
Yeah, exactly. It's the fucking NIMBYs. And we can talk a little bit about, the in the news recently, Gavin Newsom has been clearing homeless encampments in places like San Francisco, LA. Did you want to move on to that topic already, or was there something else you wanted to talk about first?
I just want to continue talking about housing. Homelessness is obviously a part of housing, so it's definitely related. But I really feel like, especially younger people, like our age demographic, pretty much the under 30 age group, I think that a lot of us do not understand the concept that we don't actually have it that bad.
No.
Like, is it not as optimal as it used to be? Yes, definitely, because I don't think that wages have grown at the pace that they're supposed to. However, I think that it's not as bad as young people make it out to be. I find that a lot of people in the same I'm in the under 30 age group as well. I understand, but I feel like a lot of people in our age group, they just think that the world is falling 24/7.
My favorite thing is seeing people on Twitter, when they're talking about inflation and they bring up how expensive DoorDash has gotten. Like,
Oh my
motherfucker,
god.
you are
I can't
hiring,
believe that this luxury good is expensive.
bro, you are hiring a personal servant for an hour to grab you McDonald's and deliver it to your door. And you are
Nothing makes
upset
me
that it's expensive.
angrier than DoorDash. I have never, I will never, and I will never stop telling people to not use those services. It is such a waste of your fucking money. I
Well,
swear to God, and I've done this before. You can call me an asshole if you want. Every single person that I've ever talked to who orders from DoorDash and then it tells me at any point in the future they complain that they don't have enough money for X, Y, or Z, I immediately have zero respect for them and no faith in their financial acumen in any capacity. There is no fucking reason why, if you are making under $100,000 a year, you need to be ordering DoorDash. That is dumb. You're an idiot. Stop it. You are recklessly irresponsible.
well,
Fuck off.
I agree with you in theory, Tom. I gotta be honest. I use DoorDash all the time, but I don't think
Well,
I
you meet the
fall.
qualifications that I
Yeah.
just discussed.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I'm not expecting it to be cheap, right? I know that, in the
And I've
past,
also never heard you complain about money ever.
in the past, people were not hiring personal servants to deliver their McDonald's. So yes, things have gotten better. The fact that people are even complaining about this is a sign that things have gotten better. Yeah, I
Well,
agree.
so I'm not sure if I showed this to you or not, but there is something that and maybe this will be better placed when we start talking more about the economy, and I'll definitely bring it up more. But they did a huge poll, Pew Research did, where they asked people, "Hey, how do you think that your local community is doing economically? How do you think the nation is doing economically? And how are you doing financially?" And 70% of them described themselves as fine or better than fine. It was like a Likert scale.
Yeah.
They said fine or better than fine. 70% of them. However, of the same sample, only 30% of them report that they believe the national economy is doing well.
Yeah, this is I
People
saw
don't know what
this.
the fuck they're talking about.
This is the argument for the vibe session. You know the vibe session?
Oh yeah, where people think that there's a recession, but it's actually just a feeling because we're nowhere near a recession at all.
Yeah, absolutely. People will
They don't
rate
know
their
what
own
a recession
finances as
is.
fine. Yeah, people will rate their own finances as fine, but then think that in general the economy is bad. But like 70%
Yeah.
of people, or whatever number you said, some huge amount, think their finances are fine. So how could the fucking economy be bad? You know what I mean?
Well, hold on. I will give most people a break here on this one because I know we're making them sound like total morons, the average American right now. But quite frankly, most people don't have time to invest in actually
No.
learning what's going
Look,
on. So, to give the benefit of the doubt, I'm just going to assume that the people are ignorant of the situation around them rather than that they have invested effort into this, into learning this, and still came to this conclusion,
of course,
which is the cardinal sin.
not everyone has the time to learn economics online, obviously, but like the problem is when the people they elect or the media who should know better are validating things that aren't true.
Yeah,
That is
so
where I
I
think the
actually
danger
really
is.
think that mass media is a huge proponent of people thinking this way. I think that the sensationalism that they use to report news is detrimental to all of society.
I also think the mass media has a problem of assuming, how do I put this without sounding like a dick, assuming that the general population is right all the time.
I think it's further than that. I think it's that they make the assumption that the general population is educated enough or equipped with the tools required in order to understand the information that they're being given on any basic level.
Yeah, like when we were
I don't like saying like, oh, most people are idiots, they don't know what they're doing, because I don't think that. I think most people are smart, which is why I say education instead. Like you anybody can read a research paper for example. But if you haven't been educated on how to read a research paper, your opinion of what you just read is pretty much worthless. You need to actually understand what you're looking at.
Absolutely. And at the peak of the Vibe Session discourse, there was all
Still going on.
sorts. It's still going on. I think it has quieted a little bit, but it is still going on.
Oh man,
And
you're not
at
on
the
TikTok enough.
Oh man, no, I'm on Twitter mainly. I don't like giving the Chinese
Oh
government any power over me. But anyway,
yeah, enjoy Neuralink.
when I was deep in the Vibe Session trenches, there was like an article in the New York Times or Washington Post, like every other fucking week, about how, oh, economists say the economy is good, but everybody, normal people say it isn't. So here's why that could be, and then they'll twist themselves into knots to explain why the economy is actually bad, even though actual experts are saying it isn't. They'll kind of err on the side of what people are kind of feeling and not realize that they're the ones that are making people feel that way.
Yeah,
It's
or they
insane.
realize it and it's much more malicious than you're making it sound.
It could be. It could be.
Honestly, I hate to say it like this, but I think that the average person, especially a person who's younger and using something like Twitter or TikTok or YouTube or any of these social media websites, I think that they in particular are vulnerable to these types of strategies because I think that everybody, I'm actually not going to limit this to a specific generation, but I think that everybody right now has a serious victim complex. Everyone has to be the victim of something. Everyone has to have something horrible happening to them at all times. Everything needs to be awful 24/7. And it's just not the case. Quite
Couldn't be
frankly,
me, Tom.
pessimistic world syndrome is very much a cognitive bias and is untrue.
Yeah. I mean, I don't disagree with that. You're preaching to the choir here.
I know, but so I'm not going to expose who it is, but me and Anthony, we have a mutual friend that we talk to about politics semi regularly, and he just has the absolute most negative worldview on every single issue imaginable, and it's just every single time that we start talking to him, he brings up some negative nonsense. We look up the facts. He's wrong 100% of the time. And it's just a total disaster. So I guess the underlying point I'm making here is stop being so negative. Things are not that bad. Quite frankly, a recession has a specific definition. Just for example, it is a certain number of quarters consecutively in which the economy does not grow or shrinks. Okay? It does not mean you can't get a job at the local Burger King. It does not mean you can't find internships, so now there's a recession that's on. It does not mean college is expensive, so now there's a recession. That's not what a recession is. A recession is a very specific and well-defined thing. You can go on Google and look it up anytime you want to. I know you won't, but you can. It is not interchangeable with I'm having a tough time financially. That's not what a recession means. And
Yeah,
I feel like that's how a lot of people use the term.
I also think, really, what I think is happening is an inflation of expectations.
Oh God, yes.
Yes, I think people are expecting things that no generation has ever expected. Well, like, first of all, to your earlier point about how things are not that bad, that's true in most areas. I saw a stat recently about how so far, Gen Z is buying homes at similar rates to their parents. It's not that
I've
different.
actually heard it's better now
It could be better. I haven't seen the most recent ones, but
from a percentage standpoint.
it could be. But I think that, like, have you ever seen those memes where it's like, it'll be like the house from The Simpsons, and they'll be like, oh, a single income in 1990 could get you this giant house. Like,
Oh
on The
my
Simpsons.
God, I hate
Like,
those boomer ass fucking memes.
like, bro, that's not even true. Most people didn't live like that. Like, look, I grew up middle class. I went to private school, but we didn't own our own home until
Man, I'm jealous.
We didn't own we rented homes. I lived in 3 different houses. I think my parents still don't own their own home. They live with their parent, like my grandmother, who actually owns the home and didn't buy it until she was in their 60s. Now, look, my family is immigrants, so it's a little bit different of a situation. But most middle class people throughout history, they lived kind of like this. A lot of people are renters. A lot of, especially in big areas, there have always been renters. Like it's not anything uniquely bad about the situation that we live in now. I think you're just expecting too much because you grew up watching Disney Channel sitcoms where everyone is rich and lives in a fucking giant house and there's never any financial trouble or anything at all. So you have inflated expectations. Or maybe your parents are rich and you grew up in a gated community and you're upset that you can't afford that in New York City. And I'm kind of getting a little ranty right now, Tom. So I'll let you pick up.
I
The
will
baton.
say, I do have to say, according to like inflation calculations and wages, I know you said you want to do a whole thing about this separately at some point, but wages, if you adjust for inflation, 1980 versus today, it really is the case that they should be much higher, like way, way higher than they are. They have not tracked anywhere remotely close to the rate of inflation. So it is the case that financially speaking, it is literally harder to buy a single family income house. But, and a solution that I want to propose really quick, like my biggest solution to this problem is to build more smaller and cheaper houses. Just more. Like, there is nothing wrong with mobile home or trailer parks for young people to buy their first home in. There's nothing wrong with that. There's no shame in living in a 1,000 square foot trailer or a 750 square foot trailer. There's nothing wrong with that. There is no shame in owning something. You own something and you live in it, and that's a beautiful thing. And we need more of it. I know that there's a lot of zoning laws and there's all kinds of things that are anti trailer park right now. I'm a big trailer park guy. I want more trailer parks countrywide.
I think apartments are way more efficient and comfortable for most people.
Could be. And I want to build more apartments too. This
Building
isn't
up, I
mutually
think.
exclusive.
Yeah, I'm in all of the. What would I call it? I'm an all of the above housing guy. I think we need to build a lot more of all different kinds of housing.
Yeah, me too. And oh my God, I know that this is going to make you explode. There's no way you disagree with me on this one. But people need to stop being angry at their landlords for the cost of their rent.
Oh my God, I want
That
to talk
is
about.
not how things work.
No, it's literally the market. It's economics. People don't want to think of housing as goods like any other thing, but it's true. Housing is a good and it is subject to market forces. And your landlord actually cannot raise the price arbitrarily because if he does, guess what? The market is going to kick in and there will be other fucking landlords that are willing to offer a little bit less for better rent or for better
And
like
it's not even
rental
just that.
prospects.
People
Yeah.
seem to have this concept in their minds right now that every single rental unit in the entire country is owned by BlackRock or some huge company.
Yeah, that's
But
not
in
even
all
true.
actuality, it's less than 5% of the total real estate that's owned in the country is owned by these huge mega
Oh,
corporations.
by the way,
It
and
is having it is having almost zero impact on your rent.
this might be a hot take, but I would
This whole thing is a
rather,
hot take.
yeah, I would rather live in an apartment managed by a large company than by a mom and pop, and I'll give you a few
Me
reasons.
too. They have liability insurance.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Look, I've lived in apartments my whole career, basically. I don't own a house, I never have. Um, and I've done smaller mom and pop apartments, and I've done fucking big megacorp apartments. And the big apartments have actual policies. It's unambiguous. They'll send people
It's just
over.
better in every
Yeah,
possible
they'll
way.
send people over when something's broken. You don't have to fucking argue with them. It's nice and simple. Whereas your mom and pop, God, good luck. Good luck getting them to fix anything. Holy
Yeah,
shit.
honestly, when it comes to a mom and pop shop, you're lucky if you complain that they don't just kick you out.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's so
It's
arbitrary.
horrible. It's terrible. And one of the biggest benefits of the bigger companies, like renting from one of them, I'm also renting from a big like mega corp style. They're not nowhere near the level of BlackRock or anything, but definitely an actual corporation setup. One of their biggest benefits is that they have property management. I know people who have rented apartments on like ground floor, right? From mom and pops, and they've had to mow the grass.
Oh
Like the
my
mom and pop wouldn't even
god.
mow the grass for them.
Oh my
And
god.
there's nothing that forces them to have to do that. The mom and pop was just like, yeah, we don't offer that. You're just gonna have to cut it yourself or enjoy
Bro,
walking through a
that's like
forest to your car.
that's all the downsides of renting with none of the upsides.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. That, but either way, I want to get back to my point here. These huge mega companies, they only own 5% of the total real estate in the whole country. Whole country. They are
yep.
not having an impact on your rental price every month. The thing
No.
that is having an impact on your rental price every month is the services that they offer you, that nice little gym that you have that needs to be cleaned every day that you can go and visit if you have one. That raises the cost of your rent because they have to pay for that. Property taxes raise the cost of your rent. The mortgage rates that the company may have on the property raise your rent. All
Supply
of
and
this can
demand.
almost exclusively be yeah, supply and demand as well. Almost all of this can exclusively be traced back to taxes, basic economics like supply and demand, and zoning rules
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
services
Since we
that are
mentioned
provided by the megacorps that
Can we
mom and
mention
pops don't
zoning
offer.
rules? Since we mentioned zoning rules, can I talk a little bit about the builder's remedy in California? This is my
No,
favorite
you
thing.
can't. Yeah, of course you
This
can.
is my favorite thing. So, like I've kind of alluded to before, California hates building housing. A big problem, a big reason why is because there's a lot of little municipalities in these places. Like LA, I mean, yes, there's LA, the city, but there's like 40 different little towns that are also kind of part of LA, and they all have a say in zoning and shit, right? So that's a big
Ugh.
problem. And the state passed a law. They're like, hey, look, we have a big housing crisis here. Every municipality is going to be forced to build some number of units according to some like basically all these places will do the research. They'll supply to the state government what is called a housing element, which is how many units they need and how they plan on building them to meet the gap, right? And then the state government has to determine if the housing elements are lawful or not. Are they correct? Is the municipality trying to lie, trying to build less than they actually need?
The answer is yes.
Most of the times they do. And in the case that they submit a non-compliant housing element to the state or to the government, something called the builder's remedy kicks in. And what this is they can once it's kicked in, basically you've already demonstrated that you have no intention of building real housing in your municipality. Any builder can build any project they want, subject to federal and local laws, but they cannot be denied on the basis of zoning. So it basically is like,
Ah,
hey, look, little town, if you are going to lie and pretend that you're a fucking habitat for mountain lions so you can't build more housing, then fuck you or taking away your right to zone entirely. And
that's
I love
great.
this.
That's the best possible outcome.
I think it's fantastic, and this is
That's
why
genius.
when people say that all the problems of California stem from like the state government, they have no idea what they're talking about. The state government is always having to fight these little towns at every turn to
But
fix
no,
anything.
it's not just fight little towns. It's fight the rich people.
Yeah, because these little towns are rich people. I want to be clear. They,
Yeah.
they mostly are. Like if you live in LA proper, you're probably making less than someone who lives like in fucking Pasadena, right? So
Oh yeah, I would expect.
yeah, yeah,
You're like the Camden person
yeah, absolutely.
or Compton, I mean.
So like when Gavin Newsom is clearing homeless camps in San Francisco, he had to fight San Francisco for like years to be able to do that. Gavin Newsom
Yeah.
is trying to fix California's problems. the cities are fighting him on it. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's how politics works.
Yeah, yeah. People don't understand. They think that like the head executive or like the head, like the president, for example, can just fix anything, you know, as if he
Yeah.
has unlimited power.
A big problem that I have with how most people view politics is that they think that their situation is normal and applicable to most others, and they assume the reasons why. And I have a serious problem with that. For example, what I'm thinking of here, if I'm being too vague, is somebody can't get a job because they're applying for a director level position and they just graduated from college and they don't know why they can't get a job right out of college that pays them $120,000 a year. Well, the reason is because that's just not how reality works. Nobody's interested in hiring somebody who just came out of college. Trust me, I wish they were. I got a master's degree and it was a waste of my time almost.
Just study
But
computer
either way,
science, man.
yeah, yeah. The only go into STEM if you're going to college at all. And if you're not going for STEM, you better get a PhD or it's not worth your time and money, quite frankly.
I think that actually
But
even in
that's
computer science it's changing now. But yeah,
well, there's been some measures that have been put in place to try and help it. Like I was talking to you the other day about the computer science person exemption for FLSA status. So let me thoroughly explain this because I don't think I got the chance to thoroughly explain it to you either. Well, hold on. We'll circle back to this. Let me make my point first.
sure.
So I think that people they apply their situation and think everybody's going through this. This is just normal. I'm normal. But no, it's not actually the case. You are not normal. You're a fucking weirdo. Sorry, it's just how it is. The people who are 5 years older than you, who graduated 5 years ago, have figured out that things just suck and you're not going to get that $100,000 job right out of school unless you're a PhD in engineering, you know. Or I guess they only go up to the master's level for the most part, but you know what I'm saying to you. It is not the case that most other people are in the same shoes that you are. And I feel like most people they say, "Why can't I get this job?" It must be the country's fault. The government's failing, the economy's failing because I can't get a six-figure job. The whole economy's failing. And I think that the overgeneralization of people's personal experiences really lends itself to people over negativizing their viewpoints on the world. And that's just what I wanted to say. But now let's loop back around because this is actually like a news update that I highly doubt most people have heard. So there's been multiple changes to FLSA exemption status. So for those of you who don't know what that is, let me explain. This is the one time that my master's degree will come in handy, probably. But so FLSA status represents if you are exempt or non-exempt from overtime pay. Means salary versus hourly most of the time is how people quantify those two things. But there are certain thresholds that are put in place every so often where you have to pay this person at least this much per week or else you have to pay them overtime. So for example, if the threshold is $1,000 a week and somebody gets paid $900 in a week, but they normally work 50 hours a week, and the company normally says, well, you're an exempt salaried employee. We're not going to pay you overtime. What this threshold does is it makes it so that they don't have a choice but to pay that person the 10 hours of overtime because they didn't pass the minimum threshold for weekly pay. They actually added in a specific exemption for computer professionals recently where, for example, I think it's 2793 is what I think I don't have it right in front of me, but I think that that's what the threshold is now per hour. And whatever that breaks out to in 40 hours of work per week is what they use as the salary threshold. So if you're a person who makes video games, for example, and they stuff you into crunch time to get a video game to come out, and you're cranking out 60 hours a week plus in order to get that game out in time, they have to pay you at least that minimum in your salary every week, or they have to give you overtime pay. And I'm sure we both know how that's going to work out. They're never going to pay the overtime pay. So they're just going to pay people more.
When I was this is somewhat related. When I was an intern, I interned at a major tech company. I won't say which one. And we were preparing for a conference in Europe. I had to work for 3 days in a row. I had to work until 4 a.m. Actually, one of those days was 2 a.m. So I worked from 9 a.m. to 4 a.m. A lot of like for 2 out of 3 days, right? And it was fucking hard. But I was an intern, and the thing about interns at this company is that interns were hourly employees, and non-interns were salaried, right?
So you got
So
the overtime pay.
I got the overtime. I got the double overtime pay. I'm 90% sure that I got paid a lot more than the salaried engineers that were also working until 4 a.m.
I'm sure.
who were providing objectively more value than me. So yeah, I think I'm happy to hear about this.
Yeah, I figured that you would be. I think that this is a step in the correct direction. This is something that happens every couple of years. They always change the thresholds for different types of positions, and I think that it's good every time they do it
Yeah, I mean, I'd love
because
to
too many
see
people get fucked out of stuff like that.
I love to see examples of U.S. state capacity working well.
Yeah, well, this is a perfect example of everything's not actually that bad and the workers' protections are actually there. Quit
Yeah,
crying.
yeah. I mean, the recent ban on non-compete clauses, that's fucking huge.
Oh my god, that's insane.
That's huge for like workers. That's a really positive development.
Yes. Now that we are talking about workers, did you have a topic that you wanted to jump to really quick?
Not right now, no.
Okay. So I want to introduce our new segment that we're going to be discussing. The stat of the week. So, every week, one of us or both of us is going to bring to the table a strange, interesting, or insane statistic that we managed to find, and we're going to discuss it a little bit. So, I have a stat about workers and wages. So, Anthony, my first question for you is I've heard a lot of people say that they think that wait staff are not paid well enough. What is your opinion on this before I get into the stats?
My opinion is that anyone who's in the know knows that if you're wait staff, you can get paid quite a bit off of tips.
I will tell you that when I was a bartender, I was raking in cash. I actually broke it down at one point when I was still doing it, and I was making something like $35 an hour
Nice.
doing bartending. I was actually making more doing bartending at the time per hour than I do now in my corporate high level position. So it kind of, I kind of want to bartend again. But anyway, I have the general perception that many people, younger people especially, and on the left, believe that having a tipped
Sorry about
wait
that.
service job. What'd you say?
Sorry about that. I got a call.
Oh, I believe that most young folks have a perception that tipped wait staff employees make no money and hold the opinion that they should instead have a proper hourly wage and not receive tips. Do you feel like you hear this opinion a lot, Anthony?
I hear this all the time and I hate it.
Yeah, I hate it too. And the statistic of the week that I want to bring to this discussion comes from the National Restaurant Association. And this isn't based in one specific location, this is US wide. Waitstaff at full service restaurants earn a median of $27 an hour when tips are
Oh my
included.
Jesus Christ, dude.
Median.
It's so funny because people like to point out how low the minimum wage is for wait
Tipped
staff.
employees.
Yeah, but like, there's a reason for that. There's a
Yeah,
good
well,
reason
the
for
the
that.
thing is, a lot of the time I hear moral grandstanding about it, where it's like, oh, well, you have to depend on the generosity of other people in order to make your money, and oh my God, it's so bad. They never make any money at all. It's just not true. This is objectively false.
Yeah.
So, I do not want to hear people complaining about how much wait staff at full service restaurants make ever again. Ever. I do not want to hear it. I don't want to at all. I do not want to hear it. And another thing, while we're talking about restaurants, you might consider this a bit of a hot take, but another one of the statistics that I saw is that 41% of restaurant firms are owned by minority individuals.
Really, I didn't know that.
Yeah, 41% of all restaurant firms, so companies, are owned by people of minority, which
Wow.
makes restaurants one of the number one paths for minorities to establish generational wealth.
Wow. That's actually really surprising.
I don't think it's surprising because people are interested in the food of other cultures, you know. So, like for example, an Indian person immigrates here, they might start a restaurant that sells Indian food. I think that a lot of people find that very appealing.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that's true, but not a lot of places have. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I don't think there's a lot of towns in America that have like an Indian restaurant, for example.
Maybe, I don't know. Another interest. I'm just gonna read it. So this whole page is full of interesting stats. So first of all, 9 in 10 restaurants have fewer than 50 employees, which is kind of expected. That's kind of what I would imagine. 7 in 10 restaurants are single unit operations, which means that they're not a chain. They only have one restaurant, which means that 70% of all restaurants are pretty much mom and pop shops. 8 in 10 restaurant owners started their industry careers in entry level positions. And here's another one: 9 in 10 restaurant managers started in entry level positions. This means that the restaurant industry has one of the highest rates of upward mobility of any industry in the entire country.
Wow. That's surprising.
Restaurants are literally the backbone of our economy.
I That's surprising to me because I think that probably more people eat or are cooking or not eating out, right?
Oh no, it's actually the complete opposite of that.
Really?
The amount of the proportion of people who are eating out versus cooking their own food has grown exponentially over the past 20 years.
Wow, that's surprising.
Like it is ridiculous how few people actually cook their own food.
That's
It's just something that people don't really do.
I don't really know what to make of that. That's really shocking to me.
Yeah. This one I brought up in our last episode, actually, but same source. 63% of all U.S. adults have worked in the restaurant industry, making it the nation's training ground. So I think what they're saying with the making it the nation's training ground, they're saying that comparatively to other industries, nobody else has this much of a percentage of shared employment between adults in the U.S.
Wow.
Restaurants employ more minority managers than any other industry in the US, which doesn't surprise me even a little bit because 41% of them are owned by people of minority. And then the wait staff at full service restaurants earn a median of $27 an hour, but there's more than that. With an upper quartile of $41.50 per hour and a lower quartile of $19 per hour. This means, just for our less statistically strapped friends out there, that 25%, the top 25% of all wait staff employees at full service restaurants are earning $41.50 per hour after tips are calculated. And even the bottom 25% of tipped wait staff at full service employees are earning $19 an hour. And I want to rope this back around to the original complaint that I have. When people say that they don't want tipped employees, they think that it would be better if they were just paid a hourly wage. I just want to make this very clear. if you were to ever turn that into law or legislation of any kind at all, you are going to have people who, instead of making $27 an hour with tips, they are instead going to be making whatever the minimum wage is. There is literally
Yeah.
a 0% chance that this works out the way that you think that it will. And I don't think that it should work out the way that you want it to anyway. I think that tipping employees based on their service is a proven method of increasing people's income. And quite frankly, with a median of $27 an hour for wait staff, they're making more money than most medical assistants, most certified nursing assistants, most lab techs in hospitals, most phlebotomists in hospitals, and most of the lower level staff that you would see in the medical industry makes less money than wait staff at full service restaurants on median.
Yeah, I think
So, quite
yeah.
frankly, we literally pay wait staff in restaurants more money than we pay hospital employees. So, I don't want to hear that they're underpaid ever again.
Yeah, I think a lot of these kinds of social issues that people get very passionate about actually stem from a place of ignorance and how the system actually works and why things are certain ways, right? Like you can see, wow, minimum wage for wait staff is really fucking low. That you can either think that's like terrible reflexively, or you can think about it for a bit and see, I wonder why that is. Like why is what is the reason for that, and look into it. But very few people actually take that latter step. They'll just knee jerk kind of go with whatever their immediate reaction is.
Yeah, and on top of that, Dr. Google is free.
Yeah, yeah.
Even if you don't have internet yourself or a computer yourself, your local library has a connection to the interweb. You too can be an internaut
Okay, but also
and go explore.
very few people today don't have any access to
I
the
know,
internet.
I am limiting the ability for an excuse of any kind.
Yeah.
There is no reason that you can't educate yourself on this. It was in the first page of Google when I typed in how much money do wait staff actually make on median. That's all that I typed in, and I immediately found it. So I don't want to
Yeah.
hear anybody say that this is something that they can't accomplish. But we're running a little bit low on time. I want to get into my hot take of the week. So, something that I have heard so often recently is people complaining that their CEOs are getting bonuses while they are not. And then on top of that, they're being told that they have to work extra hard, extra hours because they will not hire another employee for an open position right next to them that used to exist to help. And most people sit there and say, well, the CEO should stop taking bonuses and take a pay cut until they hire another staff to help us out. This is unfair that we are being treated this way. Your CEO and this is part of my hot take, two-parter. Your CEO getting a fat bonus assigned to them has quite literally fuck all to do with the person that you want to be hired next to you being hired. The real problem here that I think a lot of people skip over, and I am a human resources professional, so I kind of have a little bit of feet to stand on here with this one. Hey, I got to use my degree twice in this episode. That's kind of
There we
crazy.
go.
That's what I'm talking about. That was worth $100,000. Anyway, um, what I want to say is it's just your hiring manager. The problem right now, and my hot take is CEOs are not the reason that you don't have help at work. The hiring manager directly above you is the reason that you don't have people working next to you at work right now. You don't have help because of them, not the CEO's bonus, not because there's not enough resources or anything like that. And the reason that I think this is happening and what I want to talk about a lot is that hiring managers are way, way too picky about the candidates that they want to hire. I am sorry, Geraldine from finance, but you are not going to find The golden egg employee who has been an accountant for 40 years is a CPA and wants to come and work for you for $65,000 a year. It is not going to happen. You are too picky. I think that the problem right now is that the big thing in business has become risk management. Risk management is the big thing. And I think that hiring managers have become one of the biggest pots of risk management in corporate America. And it's a problem because they're saying essentially the risk management comes in here when you say, I don't want to take a risk on a young person, a new employee who has slightly less experience than what I'm looking for, like 3 years versus 5 years, because I want what I want and I want it now, and that's just all there is to it. And the reason that this is risk management is because they see the younger person with slightly less experience as a risk. So they are risk averse. All companies are very risk averse naturally, of course. But I think that hiring managers, they aren't doing it in a constructive way that makes any sense. They are doing it in a retarded way. They are doing what I call retard risk management, where you are managing risk so ridiculously hard that you can't possibly have any room for growth. Because what's happening is these hiring managers are being so picky about who they're hiring that they're just letting people fall through the cracks because they don't want to pay a newer person the same amount that they would pay somebody who has 2 years more experience than them. I'm sorry, pay people based off of what they can do, not what their experience says they should be able to do. And that is the real reason that you do not have somebody sitting next to you to help you out with any of your projects and you have to work overtime hours every night. It is not because of the CEO's bonus that they don't have the resources to hire this person. It is because your hiring manager is too picky about who they are looking for. And I think that this too picky attitude is spread like wildfire. It has become endemic in corporate US. For example, just a personal example that made me start thinking about this. I have a person who works with me and makes hiring decisions with me where I work. And this person is looking for a director of marketing and they want to pay this person 85, okay, that's terrible, to $115,000 per year. We had an applicant. Person had 20 years of marketing experience. They said no.
Wow.
Because the person asked for $120,000 per year.
Wow.
They want what they want, and they want it now, and they will accept no less. And that is why you don't have somebody next to you helping you at work, not because of the CEO. The CEO has almost nothing to do with any of the decisions that go on at the level that you're at.
They don't even know.
Most
probably.
likely.
Yeah.
Yeah, they probably don't even know that you exist, quite literally.
Yeah.
So do you have a hot take prepared?
Yeah, I guess my hot take is that I don't think. All right, so I saw somebody on Twitter complaining
Oh boy, here we go.
about the $500 pet fee that sometimes gets added to apartments if you have a pet, right?
Oh, mine's monthly.
Sure, sure. It could be structured differently.
Why is that unreasonable?
Exactly. They think
They can piss on the carpet. This is risk management again.
Exactly. Their argument is that if their specific pet doesn't cause damage, then they shouldn't have to pay. But that's
You don't,
ridiculous.
you fucking clown. You get the fucking deposit back when you leave if they don't piss everywhere, you idiot.
These people don't understand.
Oh my
risk
god.
management. They don't understand
That
insurance.
pisses me off.
Look, I live in an apartment where my bathtub is all
Oh.
scratched up. I'm sure because they had a dog or a cat in there that they were bathing, and it looks like garbage. It's terrible. I don't have a pet.
I
but
just
I
Oh,
see why.
sweet Christ.
I see why we're charging extra because pets, they cause damage whether you want them to or not. They might pee somewhere, and you might never get that smell out. You
Yeah,
might
but
never.
on top of that, if it's actually the case that your pet isn't going to cause damage, great, you'll get your deposit back.
Well,
What
no,
are
no,
you
no.
complaining
Hold on.
for?
This person is talking more about how like, um, it's not part of the deposit. It's like an extra add-on to like the rent monthly, basically, and you don't get it back. It's like paying for pet insurance, basically.
Oh, that's kind of trash.
I don't agree. It's dude,
No,
it
I think it would
costs.
be better if it was if you had to pay way more in your deposit. That way
I
you
mean,
can get the
sure,
deposit back if the pet
that's
actually doesn't do anything.
that's one way to structure it, but
But
the point,
they have to charge you in some way for having a
absolutely,
pet. It's just so
absolutely.
stupid not to.
Yeah, and I think this gets me into my hot take. Pets are not children. They're not children.
No, they're
They don't
not.
have the same rights as humans.
Oh my god,
You need to stop
this topic
pretending.
pisses me off.
You
This
need to
drives me
stop
nuts.
pretending that you're a pet mom or a pet dad. Understand that it's an animal. It will never get any smarter than it currently is, and it always has the potential to cause some damage or do something stupid, and there's nothing you can do about it. No amount of training can completely eliminate that possibility. And guess what? They're not entitled, and you're not entitled to any special rights as a pet owner.
I hate the term pet parent, fur baby, pet mom, pet dad, insert X variable for the word pet here. Whenever I hear that, I immediately say to myself, "Oh Jesus, you really couldn't get somebody to have kids with you, huh? That's really a shame. I feel so bad for you." Yeah, I find it pathetic. It absolutely drives me up a wall. Okay, way back in the day, before I was in my current relationship, my long-term relationship, there were multiple times when I would go out on a date, and the second I heard the person say something about fur babies or being a cat mom or anything like that, immediate red flag, run the other direction. That person is fucking nuts and does not want to have kids.
Yeah,
I'm good.
yeah,
I I think that they are a signal flare of a huge problem with young people.
yeah, agreed.
Have fucking babies. That honestly, we've talked a lot about people having negative perceptions this podcast so far, this episode. I think that one of the biggest problems with these negative perceptions is that people are actually deciding to not have children because they think that things are so horrible. Things are not that bad. Have babies.
I think
They
this is
aren't.
a
Like they're just
whole
not that bad.
yeah, things aren't that bad, and I think that's a bad excuse. I think there are plenty of legitimate reasons not to have children. I'm not gonna like pressure
No,
anybody.
I'm pressuring you.
Yeah, but I do think that using the excuse, oh, things are bad or climate change is going to destroy us or whatever, I think all of that is stupid. Those are not true.
I've actually heard less of the climate change group recently. I've heard more of the how am I going to possibly afford it by working. It really is not that hard. It's not. It's not that bad. If you are in a position that has any form of growth at all, you can afford to have a child.
Yeah.
However, I think a lot of people aren't willing to deal with the fact oh god. I think that all of the problems that we're talking about right now can be summed up in one phrase. Everybody in the United States is an adult infant.
Yeah. That's true.
They want give me everything, give. I will give nothing back. Nothing ever. It's all mine. Give it. They are all little dragons sitting on their hordes. I think that it's a huge problem. I think that it's probably the root cause of every single thing that we've discussed today is that people are just so ridiculously selfish that it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
They're so selfish, in fact, that it's causing nationwide problems
Not wrong.
for the economy. Nationwide problems. Stop being so fucking selfish. You are going to have to work. That is just a fact. Sorry, Buster.
Well,
Your Instagram career is not likely to take off.
well, Tom, listen, we're over the 1 hour mark,
We are way over the 1 hour mark now.
so maybe it's
I
time
get
to sign off.
impassioned sometimes.
I understand.
All right. Well, next time we're going to have even more stuff that we did. Honestly, a problem we've been running into is that we're not clearing our agendas every day at this
No,
point.
we get very.
So-
I think we get sidetracked. We get too into one topic. Yeah, I know.
Well, I think it's okay, though. I think I'd rather dig super deep into one topic than briefly go over a whole bunch.
Yeah.
So I think we're doing good. But this is going to be the end of episode 2 of the Coconut Tree podcast. We're going to end it here. Leave a comment, leave a like, leave a follow, every single platform. You can double subscribe, you can go to Spotify, follow, you can go back to YouTube, subscribe. You hit us everywhere. We need the support. Tell your friends about us. We need every single click we can possibly get. We got to feed that hungry algorithm. You with me, folks?
Feed me.
And yeah, we'll see you sometime soon. I'm going to be moving into a house very soon, so clap clap for me, celebrate, yay. But we might miss an upload or two over the next couple of weeks. Just be ready for that. So don't miss me too much, And follow our TikTok. I upload clips all the time of the important parts. So have a nice day, guys. I love y'all.
All right. See ya. Bye.
Bye, everybody.